I conducted an inquiry brief in my final class of grad school. This is for practicum. And my question was, how can you increase reading motivation in high-achieving students? Some background info. I've taught reading for about 6 years, with the final two being, or with the most recent two being in 6th grade. This year I encountered a challenge. According to performance series test scores, about 3/4 of my students were at or above grade level in reading. Now, I had strategies for my lower students because that's what we do. We move them. Well, we must move all of them. So, I had to figure out a way to keep their test scores going up and keep their motivation going. I noticed some of my students, and you probably have too, becoming bored with our reading series. It's not challenging enough. And I decided, how can I fix this? Well, I found a reading attitude survey and I really liked it, so I did it with each student in my class. And it consisted of 20 questions that determined their recreational and academic attitudes toward reading. The scores were very broad. I got anything from 48% up to 98%, and the higher percentage means a greater love for reading. A wide range, I said, I need to fix this. So, this really stood out to me because my blue group, being my higher group, many of them had very low recreational reading scores. So that told me that they didn't read a lot for enjoyment. In their free time, they didn't pick up a book. They did other things. So I thought, well, maybe they're becoming bored. Maybe they're not challenged. I need to do something to get them going. These are some of the results from the reading attitude surveys. I have first names only. These are all for my blue group. You can see here that Olivia's recreational reading is very low. Olivia is a very high-achieving student and is in my blue group, but doesn't have a love for reading. And then here's Alicia, who reads all the time. Her recreational is high, but her academic is low. And then here is Emma, and this really surprised me because both her recreational and academic hover near 50%. And I guess, had I not done this, I would have thought that she just really enjoyed reading. And then here's Aniston, the whole other end of the spectrum, who has 100% recreational and 97.5 academic for an overall 98 percentile. She reads all the time. I mean, all the time. And these students are in the same group together, and I'm like, how can I mesh this and let them sort of rub off on each other? So, my design came, and I thought, well, my students like technology, they like Chromebooks, they work pretty well together, and they're at the age that they need to learn how to work together. So I thought, well, let's combine the two, technology and group work, with reading. So my wondering became, how can I motivate higher achieving students in reading using group work and technology? So I decided to take my blue group, have them select a chapter book, and then create a Google Slides presentation incorporating all the reading skills that we teach. Main idea, author's purpose, sequencing, summarizing, plot. Our school's library media specialist, she assigned Google accounts to each student, and she conducted class sessions on Google Drive and internet safety and etiquette with each student in the class. They were so excited, and they could not wait to get started. So my first focus group was my blue group, 7 students, and we met as a group. We discussed book choices, and they loved this. I learned that when I gave them the chance to explore, it totally put a new spin on things. Instead of saying, okay, boys and girls, this is the book you're going to read because it's on your level. They said, Miss Wells, you mean we get to choose? And I said, yes, choose. All of these books, read the backs, talk about them. And they really enjoyed that. my literature review that I did during this project, I found research that said teachers do need to pay close attention to interest and readability level while giving choice to higher achieving students, because choice is something that they really take ownership of. So basically, I reviewed the reading skills with them, showed them the Google template that they were going to complete. A few of them took notes while they were reading. And I shared the presentation with them in Drive. They explored Drive like nobody's business. Like, they loved it. And they wanted to read all the time. And we read in this open classroom next door. That way I could go check on them. We read, sometimes 30 minutes a day during our reading block. And then when it came time to work on the PowerPoint, they would sometimes work over there. They would sometimes go to the library where Miss May was available to help them if they had any technology questions. So my results, data, and learnings. So about halfway through this process, I said, I need to see if this is working. I need to see what they're thinking. And I wanted them to put it on paper because I didn't want to do, just talk with them in the group, because I thought, well, maybe one person will say what the other person says just so they don't, maybe one doesn't think that the other's not enjoying being in the group. So they shared their likes and dislikes. Most all the feedback was positive. However, some students said they'd rather read alone. I'm going to pause just a second. 2 of our teachers need to leave to go to PST. Thank you, ladies, for coming.
Yes, thank you.
I'll share this with you.
Great.
Okay. So I noticed that the students who would rather read alone were the ones who had a positive attitude and a higher recreational reading score. And this made perfect sense because they already read alone. And this was something new for them. And the other students who had lower recreational reading scores were just raving about how great this was because they got to interact with their peers and discuss what they read. They said they also, something that I found great, and it's a great reading strategy, they love to make predictions about what was about to happen. Here are some examples of the surveys. I'll just discuss a few points. This student said that she doesn't really matter if she reads alone or with groups. She said, when you read aloud, it sort of sticks better with me. This student said definitely with my group because it's fun how other people read the things and their fluency. She said, I just like to hear other people read. And I asked, are you enjoying this? And she said, I have enjoyed reading and talking about progress in our group, and I guess that's when they come and meet with me. I said, if you could change one thing about what we've done so far, what would it be? She said it would probably be the location. She said, I don't like to be in cramped places. And I'm thinking that could be when we read in we read in the teacher workroom, and then when we moved to the classroom, it became a better environment. Says, are you looking forward to the Google Slides presentation? She says, yes, 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 because I've never used Google Slides. This student said, yes, because I think it will be fun to teach other people about what we read and how interesting it is. And they did present this to the class. Here are a few more. This one was pretty neat. She said if you could change one thing, she said nothing because the blue group is amazing. Or perfect, I'm sorry. This person says, I like what we've done so far. This one says, I like getting close to the students in my group. That's great for your cooperative learning. This one says, when our 7 different personalities clash. This is great. Said it's like the 4th of July and a circus. So that's really imaginative right there. This student, she said she'd rather read alone, and it was a student who had a higher recreational reading score. And then this student said, definitely in the literature group because it's more fun. It says, together we can put our own influence into the story. It says also, I usually feel left out. So together makes me feel like a person. And that really touched my heart. And some more results. I do, however, think this process would be difficult if you have students who are easily distracted and may have some behavior issues. We really talked beforehand about what was expected outcomes and behaviors. I also learned that I had to let go of some of my control and let these students just guide their own learning. And when I did that, they would just come to me and just be like, Miss Wells, is it time to read? Is it time to read yet? And it would be before lunch, before reading time. I'll show you their Google Slides presentation, but it did satisfy all the requirements. They each also took an accelerated reading test and scored 100%, so their comprehension was definitely there, as well as their motivation and enjoyment, because I could see that just whenever we discussed in groups and them just constantly asking, is it time to work on our slides presentation? Is it time to read with our group? Or, Miss Wells, you would not believe what happened. So here, that sort of let me know they're definitely enjoying reading and working with their group. And I was very fortunate this group did not have any spats. They got along well. So that was definitely a plus. Let me go click this and I'll briefly walk you through the presentation that they created. Okay, wanted to make sure it would work. They read the book Out of My Mind by Sharon Draper, and they put their initials here to kind of keep it anonymous. Here, they discussed all the main characters and their traits. This slide, and all the slides that I shared with them, they only had the top heading, and they put in everything else. Here they summarize the plot, the exposition, rising actions, climax, falling actions, and resolutions. And they did this very well without giving away too much of the book. And I also noticed that this book, many other students in my class have picked it up to read as a result of this presentation. They did a character analysis. They said that they wanted to do 2 because it was kind of like these characters were a group and these characters were a group. So they did a comparison and contrast here. Cause and effect. They put the cause on one side, the effect on the other. They gave a summary, and I'll read this to you because they said Melanie is an 11-year-old girl. She has a photographic memory. She has a disability called cerebral palsy. She cannot talk or walk. She cannot do anything herself besides breathe. Melanie has a mind like a video camera that is always recording, and there is no delete button. She remembers everything her parents ever spoke to her or about her. They learned a lot about cerebral palsy. They researched that because they wanted to see what it was actually doing, which I think, that's a great thing. They had to give some themes. These were really good. Don't judge a book by its cover, the golden rule. This goes back to the cover of the book. Be a fish out of water, be different. They said that's what she felt like a lot, was a fish out of water. As they were going through this, they kept up with unknown vocabulary, and they had to define these words at the end. They each got to do a book rating and give a statement like they were a book reviewer. This was something they really enjoyed. They each gave this book 5 stars. It says great for all ages and different types of people. Love this book. The best book I've ever read. This book is awesome. It's on my recommended book list, which they have that in their reading journals. They said this occurred in the book, and I won't read it to you, but this really told so much about the main character. And one of the students said, I really want to put this in the presentation. She said, I know a presentation is not supposed to be wordy, but this really needs to be in there. So I said, discuss with your group, and if you think it's best, definitely do that. So they agreed that it needed to be there. And that is where it concludes. And I thought this was great. They put a copyright page where it says the source for the pictures. That's where they found their picture. So everything mentioned in the PowerPoint is credited to Sharon Draper, the author of the book. And we hope you enjoyed our little presentation by the Blue Group.
I have a question while you're pulling up the other PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Did this Blue Group share their presentation with the whole class as a group, or did they have an individual speaker that shared? How was it shared with the
They
group?
did, and I'll share this with you all so you can look. This is actually where I videoed them.
Oh, okay.
They discussed, and they each had a slide or a couple of slides that they shared. And they talked about that. They said, do we want to work on one slide? Does one person do one slide, one do another? And they said, well, I think maybe one person can type it and everybody give feedback, because that way we're all learning. And I'm thinking, wow, that's awesome. But yes, when they presented it, they had their own slides that
Okay,
they
so I have a
discussed.
question too.
Sure.
Okay, so like, you did this with your high group, and you
I
had a
did.
super high group.
I did.
Apparently. So, when you have the special needs group, or when you have other groups, when they see this, the other groups want to do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your plan of action for that? Like, are you gonna let your low? Are you gonna let your general? Or are you just
Yes.
gonna keep this? Okay, so how are you gonna facilitate and accommodate their needs? Because we all know they may not be able to do all the Google slides. They may not be able
Right.
to understand all, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
There's
right.
just a lot of,
We do have 3 Chromebooks in here, well 4 actually, that I've borrowed, 3. During their reading block, they get to, some of them have even done Google Slides presentations on their own. Right now, my purple group is working on their PowerPoint presentation.
is that middle or low?
That is middle high.
Okay.
My
So they're
middle,
still high.
they are. My middle lows are reading their book now and are about halfway through. My green group, which is my lower group, is about to choose their book.
So do you kind of help give them because with them being lower,
Mhm.
because I have that class this year.
Yes.
So would you give them choices? Because I've seen consistently my low group wants to pick books that are way too high.
That are way too high.
Yeah.
I would probably let them, which, working with the other teachers in the grade level, and I know I borrowed books from you too, I would probably get book choices, and that way they still have the choice, but I know they're on their level. And like you said, I probably will have to facilitate a lot more with the presentation. I'm thinking about with this green group, doing jobs, probably. And I do have a couple people in my green group that are a little more advanced than the others. There's still a,
Yeah.
and probably just make them be the group
The
leader. And since we are reading next door, I can just go down, every few minutes and do a quick check.
Because it's just really, because I'm doing I'm doing
Yes.
4 books. And it's just really hard for me to even manage.
Yes. And what I found that I would love to be able to do that, but I found that it's just kind of a gradual release.
Yeah.
One group read, one group do a PowerPoint. Because I feel like I don't have control. Because while they're doing that, I'm meeting with groups still. And when they come back, we discuss what they talked about, still incorporating skills.
Because like I was thinking, like with my low group, if I said, here's the plot, go make a slide, they wouldn't understand what the plot was.
Yes, in
to
this
do.
group, they had to go back to their reading journals. They had to use Google. They had to use online
My question is,
sources.
how are you going to do that with the low?
they have their reading journals, and I've got to teach them that they're gonna have to go to that source of information. I can't
So
send them
you're
to.
really releasing them.
I have to, because
Yeah.
I mean, I can't send them to 7th grade not knowing how to go to a source and find out what something is. And they have their other 6th group member, 5 to 6 group members to help them. And then what I've also noticed is there's a comment section on Google Slides. I have my Chromebook with me in my
I saw
group,
that.
and they comment to me and ask me questions, and I can respond just like that. If it's something I can resolve in a comment, that's great. If not, I can go down and help
just
them,
asking that 'cause
or Miss
like-
May can.
With the lows, I have 1st grade readers all the way up to 3rd grade readers.
Right.
They are struggling to read the book.
And see, I probably have my lowest
It's probably what, a 5th grade.
4th is high 4th.
So that's still super high. So that's why I'm like, how
It
can I
is.
make, because you
How can
will
you make it
eventually
work?
have this with a
Oh,
special
yes,
needs group.
definitely.
So that's what I'm
definitely.
saying, like, how can we make this, because everybody would like to do it.
Right.
And I think maybe a suggestion would be, I mean, you're all still meeting with your groups and you're doing your reading journal, whatever you want them to do in their slides, that's gonna be the skill that they're gonna focus on in the reading journal with you at the table, so they're already gonna go away knowing.
Knowing about
That's
it,
cute.
because we
plot
talk
or the
about it.
How I
characters.
kind of manipulate that is with the low, it's on YouTube, they listen to it, they do the audiobook and they look, track with their eyes
Yes.
to help, because there's
Yes,
like.
audiobooks is another choice that you could do.
Yeah.
You would just have to really make sure that they're still engaged and not.
Oh, they're right
daydreaming.
there beside, because we have
Okay,
behavior.
yes, gotcha.
So they're like where I can see them.
Just a few more slides. This is just research data and learnings. This is basically the research portion from the academic journals that I found. Motivation and an overall love for reading are very important qualities. We all know this. Research states that students need collaboration, choice, and challenge. And I really tried to do this with my students. Book clubs, literature circles, great ways for motivating, and I saw evidence of this. Intrinsic motivation, that's what we all want our kids to have. Intrinsic motivation for reading. Pick up that book. Get engaged in that book. Just fall into the plot of it. It does enhance the amount of voluntary reading and increases comprehension. Quality of text, interest level, and readability, extremely important. That's something we as teachers have to monitor. And technology, we all know it's a great enhancement for learning. Concluding thoughts. Basically, after researching this literature and conducting my inquiry, I realized that some students really do have that inner love for reading. Some don't. I feel that we as teachers need to do all we can to try to increase that motivation. And I really think I did that with this blue group. And as the purple group and yellow group and green group hopefully finish up, you know, I may make some different concluding thoughts, but right now this is what I have and what I have to work with. And I can't wait, you know, to see what comes out of the other groups. I do think teachers can alter their teaching, supplement their curriculum with research-based methods that are proven to make reading more fun and interactive. We have tools at hand, but there are so much more things out there that we can use to supplement. Many of my high-achieving students who didn't have the motivation, I really think they enjoyed this. I am, Ms. Richardson, like you said, I'm going to continue this with inquiry with all my reading groups. It may be challenging as I go down. Because my inquiry was how to motivate the higher achieving students. But deep down, I really think that will motivate all students, honestly. They are so excited, ready to get started. They can't wait. You know, like I said, yellow group's reading now. Purple group did pick a shorter book, so that's why they're kind of moving quicker. They do ask me about it every day. Are we going to get to read? Is there time to read today? Do we have, you know, library? Do we have art? Is there going to be time? And I'm like, yes, we'll make time. So this really confirmed that reading motivation was increasing. And these are just some references, and I'll be happy to share this with you. And thank you for coming. I really do appreciate it.